Welcome everyone, wherever you are in the world. I am in the UK. Bear with me, I'm just going to pop a few of you on mute. Bear with me, sorry, Zoom life never gets any easier. So I'm here in the UK. So if I refer to the evening or the end of your day, forgive me if that isn't where you are right now. But thank you so much for carving out an hour of your time. And it's great to see so many of you. We're recording this session, which means that we can play it back for those that can't attend. Therefore, you're in complete choice whether you want to be on video or not. The recording will only ever show my face as speaker, and also my screen. But like, it's not important for me to see you. I want you to take what you need out of it. So who am I? I've just introduced myself as your host. And I might have met a few of you before via Iconic Offices' events that we have held together previously, and we might not have met yet. So I just wanted to do a very brief introduction as to who I am. I have 20 years public relations experience under my belt, and I pivoted in 2020 to train as a coach and to train as a life coach. And through that, I've discovered the practice of journaling, which is what I'm here to present to you today. Journaling is as simple as putting pen to paper, or it could be as simple as just settling down, closing your eyes and considering the answers to the questions I'm going to share. But with that in mind, I would say grab a notebook and pen if you feel like you want to write down, or you can open up a new document on your computer if that's what you want. But you take from this as you wish. This is not school. I am here to guide you through an hour of journaling together, or maybe 45 minutes at this point. We've got time for questions at the end. I'm going to just share what we're doing. So as I've said, grab a notebook and pen, or just prepare yourself to answer the questions in a way that feels right to you. I will time these prompts, so you don't have to do anything other than listen out for me. The session will last for about 50 minutes. There's time to share, there's time to connect, and you can ask any questions that you want of me that you want at the end. Forgive me for 1 second. I'm just going to prepare. I always play background music because it's a good thing to have rather than to sit in silence. So I'm just going to make sure that you can hear that. And then we're going to get started. And I like to start my sessions just with grounding in the present, first and foremost. This might well be something that you just want to listen to, or you might want to write it out to warm up those wrists. My first question for you, which I'm going to give you 2 minutes to consider, is how are you feeling at the moment? Whatever time of day it is for you, acknowledge how you truly feel. I will move us on in 2 minutes. For those of you that have just joined, grab a notebook and pen. We're grounding in our present for 3 prompts before we get into the content of today's session, which is centered around goal setting. We've got just under 2 minutes to answer our first question, our first prompt, which is how are we feeling? I'll move us on in 90 seconds now. Thank you for spending this time together. going to move us on. Keep writing if you need to keep writing. But my next prompt for you to consider, which we'll have 2 minutes for, is what do you need to release from your day? Now, if you're not at the beginning, not at the end of your day, what do you need to release from the last 24 hours? Just consider what might be stuck in your mind, conversations said, or maybe unsaid, things you did, things you didn't do, things that others did, things that others didn't do. What do you need to release from the last 24 hours? Let go of, if you will. Move us on in 2.
Waving bands of defiant young Negroes, some wearing shiny new clothes they had stolen, pranced through the debris-cluttered streets in the heavily neutered Central Ward. 2-zone hot water, heat. Brush meat with marinade, vegetables with oil. The monstrous brick was in. Expansion level for 2 extra bedrooms and bath. I felt it everywhere. When you got a job to do, reach for something good to chew. Chewing helps you stand the pace, anytime and any place.
For those that have joined us, and I've had a couple of questions, this is for you to take what you need. So grab a notebook and pen or type on a document that's private to you. I don't need to see your answers. So our third prompt, just before we move on into the meat of the session, if you will, is for asking you to consider what feels easy at the moment and what feels more challenging. That could be tasks, it could be conversations, it could be relationships. But have a think about what comes supernaturally to you right now and what might you need some support for, what feels challenging. I'll move us on in 2 minutes. This third prompt is asking you to consider what feels easy at the moment and what feels more challenging. That could be considering what's on your to-do list. It could be things that you need to say. It could be relationships with others. But I'm going to move us on in just over a minute after we've considered what feels easy for us at the moment and what feels more challenging. So now that we're warmed up, hopefully you've got into a little bit of a groove as to what journaling might look like for you. And some of the prompts you might have answered quickly, you might have run out of words, and that's fine. Take that moment to pause, perhaps read what you've written, because you never know, something else might come up. But it's okay to take a pause. We'll only ever be a minute or two in silence, and silence is okay. Sit and be comfortable with that silence. So we're here today to consider goal setting, and it's perfect timing. It might not feel like it for some of us, but we are switching from summer into autumn. The UK is going through a heat wave, so it doesn't feel much like autumn at the minute. But September is the perfect month to reflect, to reset, and take action. And that's what we'll be doing together tonight, or today, wherever you are in the world. And I like to use goal setting as an excuse to really just settle back in with what our values are. Our values make up our actions, our words, how we do things. If we're not rooted in our values, it can be hard to see them through. So the next set of prompts are going to ask us to consider defining what our values are to us. So for the first 2 minutes, I'd love for you to just answer the question, what do I value in others? What attributes show up in other people that you really appreciate, maybe that you really admire? 2 minutes to consider, what do you value in other people? And then moving on from that, I'd love for you now to spend 2 minutes thinking about, what do you value in yourself? How do you show up for yourself? How do you show up for others? What do you value in yourself? It might feel like a big question. Take a moment, maybe close your eyes, think about the answer before you write down, what do you value in yourself if you need to. Remember, in this session, anything goes, as long as you're getting something out of it. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to consider, what do you value in yourself? And building upon that now, I'd love for you to consider, what do you aspire to be like as a person? How can we build upon what you value in yourself and make it more? Is there anything that you haven't said that you're working towards? You might aspire to be something that you value in others, for example. But I'm going to give you 2 minutes now to answer the prompt. What do you aspire to be like as a person? Forgive me, there's a couple of you asking for clarification what I mean there. So I'm asking you, what do you aspire to be like? And perhaps you see something in others that you might want to emulate, that you might want to build upon for yourself. There could be qualities, there could be ways that they show up that you might not be fully there yet. So how do you aspire to be like as a person? Answer that however you wish. We've got just over a minute before I move us on. And my last prompt in this section is asking you to answer what could look like a simple but big question. And it's, what's important to you? How would you answer that question right now? And if you need a helping hand, start a sentence with, I feel that something is important to me. And what's that something? I'm going to give you just a minute and a half to finish up and think about what's important to you right now. It could be keeping to deadlines, it could be connecting, it could be rest, it could be motivation. What's important to you at the moment? So, with the work we've just done in these 4 prompts, we're working through what we value in ourselves and in others, and how we show up day to day. And I truly believe that if we can set ourselves some goals, either small tasks that you might do daily or big tasks that you're going to work for years to complete, if they're rooted in your values, it's so much easier to progress them because they're true to you. They're intrinsic and they're woven through anything and everything that you do because you're staying true to yourself there. So everything that you just got down on that page represents your values in some way. So before I move us on, what I'm going to ask you to do is reflect for a moment. And I'm going to give us 3 minutes. So this is the longest of the prompts that we're going to have. And I'm going to ask you to just consider maybe the day, the week, the month, the season just passed, and consider what stood out to you. Were there moments, experiences? Were there things said? Were there things achieved? Were there things missed? Were there moments of quiet? But consider a time frame, the week, the day, the month, the season, and reflect on it. I'll move us on in 3 minutes. Take moments to really, truly sit and think about that time frame. You don't have to write for the 3 minutes. I know it can feel like a long time for some. We have a minute before I move us on. Keep going. I'm going to move us on now, but I do think before we move forwards, it's always important to take a moment to pause, just acknowledge where we've been, what we are proud of, what we notice, what we feel might have been missing, so that we can build upon that with the goals and plans that we set for ourselves in our future. So we've reflected, and I'm going to invite us now to reset before we propel ourselves forwards. And I'd love for you to just think about how you spend your time and energy, thinking about what you've just written. What do you value the most? And it might have been something that you weren't doing. It might be something that you do every day, a little ritual. But how you've spent your time in that day, week, month, season that we've just written about. What did you value the most about how you spent your time and energy? What are you most proud of? What do you really enjoy? I'm going to give us 90 seconds to consider that. Building upon this now, I'd love for you to think about if there's anything that you can add or remove, or perhaps build upon from your routine that could better serve you and your values. So, is there anything that you're doing that you need to do more of? Or is there anything that's missing that you might need to add in and take into consideration for your next day? That might be adding a new ritual, it might be keeping a ritual, and that can be as simple as taking 5 minutes with a cup of coffee. It could be continuing journaling. What could you add or remove from your routine to better serve you and align with your values? I'm going to give us 90 seconds to consider that question and how we'd answer it. We have 20 to 25 minutes or so left of writing, so take this moment to shake out the wrists, stretch the fingers if you feel like you need to just give your wrists a rest. Because we're now going to get into that goal setting section, that juicy part that allows us to think of our future and how we want to carve that out. So with that in mind, my screen's just frozen. With that in mind, we are going to move forwards, and I'm going to invite you now to consider a time frame or a milestone that you want to work on. It could be the end of this year, so it could be that you want to work on something or lots of things between September and December. You might want to work towards your next birthday, the end of the month, the end of the week. Perhaps it's an event that you want to train for, participate in, or create even. Anything goes. I'm going to give you a few moments. So I'm going to give us another 3 minutes to consider that. What do you want to work on? Something big, something small. It could be a number of things, but I'd say don't get too overwhelmed. And if you want to set and work on a number of goals, go to a maximum of 3. But if you're with me, consider a time frame or a milestone that you want to work on and describe how it will feel for you at the end of this moment. In what will it feel like to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve? I'm going to give us 3 minutes to consider that and write down how you want to feel at the end. Why is this goal important to you? You might want to run a marathon. You might want to be promoted. You might want to set up your own business. You might want to start a family. You might want to walk 10,000 steps a day. You might want to perfect the perfect cup of coffee. Or you might want to think about moving, or you might want to settle somewhere. Whatever it might be, describe how it will feel for you when you've achieved that. Let's dream for a moment. Dream wildly and dream big. Don't hold back. I'm going to give us 3 minutes to consider this. So, what I've asked you to do here is imagine that you're on a scale of 1 to 10 and you've just described what number 10 looks like, the end point, what it looks like as a whole picture. And this is a coaching technique that allows you to really break down your goals into manageable ladder points. So you can go from a scale of 1 to 10. You can go larger than that, you can go smaller than that if your goal feels like if you feel like your goal needs that. But for the intent and purposes of this evening, what we've just worked through is our number 10. So my next prompt for you to consider is, where are you now? What number would you consider yourself now? If you're looking at where you are right now in this moment today and looking ahead to number 10, and I'd like for you to just describe how that feels to you. Does it feel overwhelming? Does it feel exciting? Do you feel ready? Do you feel unprepared? Describe how it feels. I'm going to give you another 2 minutes to consider that. And I'm also going to ask you to give yourself a number. So we've numbered the endpoint, number 10. Where do you think you are on the goal scale? Let's go from 1 to 10. I'll move us on in 2. And you might well have guessed what comes next, but wherever you are on that scale, I'm going to maybe assume that you might have put yourself lower down, maybe in the 1s, 2s, maybe you haven't even started yet. But I'm going to ask you now, I'm going to give us 5 minutes to map out where we are now to where we want to be and consider what needs to happen, what needs to shift, what needs to be released perhaps as you go on a journey from today to achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve, that goal, that time frame, that milestone. And if it's helpful, if you worked with me and you considered 10 and where you are now, write down the numbers in between and think about what needs to happen or what dates stand out and what you might want to have achieved by those ladder points. Like, let's just consider that you're training for a marathon. You might want to be halfway through at point number 5 and say, I want to run a half marathon. And what might that have looked like? What's the dates backwards from that? If you're working for a promotion, do you need to have achieved something? Do you need to have a portfolio prepared? What might that look like? Whatever it is, going to give us up to 5 minutes now. I've been talking for a minute, so I'm going to give us 4 minutes to consider where we are now, where we want to be, and what does in between look like. We have 2 more minutes before I move us on. And if you've run out of words, if you've run out of things to think about, just take a moment to read, reflect, reset. And now, if you're not there already, I'm going to give us 2 minutes to simply reflect, give those wrists a break, and read back what you've written. And think about if anything needs adding, anything needs removing or adapting. And perhaps think about if there's anything that you're resisting or holding back from saying on that page. So I'm going to give us 2 minutes now. This can be our moment to just settle in silence, read, or finish up anything that you might need to finish up. And that is by adding or removing or adapting. I'll move us on in 2 minutes. And take from this 2 minutes whatever you need. Keep going or have a rest. So what we've done there is broken down a goal, and it can be a task, it can be, as we've just worked out, an event, it can be a milestone, but it's something whenever I feel stuck and challenged by what's ahead of me that I break it down step by step, and it makes it a little bit more manageable, and it can help with anxiety around that task, it can help with uncertainty around that task. So hopefully it's something that you'll be able to bring, this technique will be something that you'll be able to bring to your day to day. Now, we have 4 more prompts together before I close us out. And we can't do things alone, even though we try. And we might just need sounding boards, we might need advice from others, we might need others' helps and skills. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to think about, with these goals that you've set yourself in mind, what support do you need to ask for to help you get there? I'm going to give us 2 minutes to think about what support do we need to ask for. And now I'd love you to think about what could change. Might the goal change, or might the journey you've just mapped out adapt in some way? And how might you react to that? Or how do you want to react to that? Take a moment. I'm going to give us 90 seconds to just consider what might change along this journey and how we want to prepare, adapt, or react. We have 2 more prompts left. We are nearly done. We're on the home straight. I'm going to ask you just to commit to something. So, what will you do to action the goals that you've set for yourself? What will you do immediately, i.e., before the end of the day today? What will you do this week? What will you do this month? What will you do beyond that? So, declaring a goal makes it more likely to come to life. And declaring those action points will make you more accountable for doing them. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes now to just commit to an action point that you'll do immediately this week, this month, and beyond. I'll move this on in 2. building upon this now, I'm going to share our final prompt, which is a mission statement that I like to share in most of my sessions. So if you've joined me before, you won't be a stranger to this. But I'm going to invite us to just turn our present feelings, our intention, our goals into a mission statement that we can perhaps write somewhere visible, keep on our phones, or put on a post-it note. So I'm going to ask you to acknowledge the time frame or the goal, what you've just set yourself, what you're working towards, and finish these sentences for me. I will commit to something. I will leave behind, let go of something. I will prioritize something, and I will ask for something. I'm going to give us 2 minutes to consider this before we wrap up today's session. And take a screenshot of this if you need to, because you might want a little bit more time. Take that screenshot, write down those starters so that you can come back to them if you need to. I'm going to leave you for 2 minutes to work on this mission statement for yourself. In the interest of time, this is where I will wrap us off. Thank you so much for joining